Hi, this is Jessie J, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Welcome to Icon Fetch. I am Tony Peters. Now, David Lanz is a frequent guest to this show. He is a Grammy-nominated multi-platinum pianist who spent the last 30 years putting out successful instrumental albums. Recently, his career has taken a different direction, collaborating with Norwegian singer Kristin Amarie. Now, their first album was 2014's holiday-themed Forever Christmas. Now comes Silhouettes of Love.
Silhouette of love, shadows line your face.
And to talk about it, through the miracle of modern technology, we welcome back David Lanz. How are you, David? Good to talk to you.
Hey, Tony. It's been a while, but it's always nice to chat with you.
Always nice to chat with you as well. And,
cool.
It seems like we've got a regular thing here where I talk to you and you've relocated again.
I don't know what's up with that, but just trying to get it right, you know.
Right.
So
that's all right. So tell me where you are. You're like halfway around the world now, right?
Yeah, it's very different here. It's interesting to be living in France during this insane terrorist war that's going on too. So we're quite a ways away from, Paris is where the initial attack took place, and we're many, many hours away in the south of France, pretty close to Aix-en-Provence and Marseille, which is almost down to the Mediterranean. But even here, several 400 or 500 miles away, the police are still kind of very on guard. And there's, when you go downtown and the shopping, and there's young military guys with their machine guns, just making sure no one does anything, But still, it's a strange feeling to be here.
It really is. It really is. And we live in some crazy times for sure. So
yeah, definitely.
But, okay, so, I talked to you many years ago. You were in Seattle, then you were in New York, and now you're in France. So how did one get to France then?
How did that work? Well, when I was living in the Northwest, I was doing these workshops, hosting workshops for budding composers, pianists, and musicians. And my future partner and bride, Kristin Amarie, came. She was living actually in New York, and she came out for a couple of these workshops. And long story short, we really just hit it off. And so my first move then was to leave the Northwest and go to New York. And Kristin originally is from Norway, but she's lived all over the world. She's lived in Cyprus and Malta and Thailand and India and England and France. And she had recently been in Nice, which is not too far from where we are right now. And she really loved it, but then she had ended up getting into another relationship in New York before I had met her. So it took us a few years to finally decide that we had enough of we were up in upstate New York, and the weather was so bad.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cold. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been feeling the pain, too. So, and she said it was colder there than in Norway. So she really wanted to get back to Europe just to be closer to her family. And the kids, there were some schooling situations. And so I thought France would be kind of cool because it would be kind of central in the sense of being in Europe. We could be close to Spain and close to Italy, where I have, quite a few fans still. And so that's kind of how we ended up here. And we've just ended up buying a home, which is turning into a little more of a challenge than we thought. But it's been really, really different being an American. And I got to tell you, I don't speak much French at all. So Kristin is my constant interpreter there. So
Right.
But it's been definitely a huge change for all of us and for the family. But so far, it looks like the kids are settling into the schools, and we're slowly getting acclimated to the French lifestyle.
Stardust raining down on us.
from a music standpoint, I mean, you have played Europe, I would imagine, many times in your career, but to actually then be living there, I imagine that's, like you say, that's got to be a big transition, I would think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done, back in the 90s, I did a number of recordings. One called Return to the Heart that went all over Europe, and another one, East of the Moon, which was done in England. And I did some touring in Spain, and Spain has been the one country that I've probably done the most performance in. So we're gonna, we're just gonna see how it works out, and for now we need to kind of stay put for at least a few years because of we got to get our youngest daughter is in high school. She's 15, so she needs a few more years of school. But we miss the U.S. though. The shopping here sucks.
I was just going to ask, what do you miss? And I mean, as a musician, do you find living in France to be, are the songs flowing more as a result of, being in this romantic country? Or
yeah, well, you would think, but I mean, actually, to tell you the truth, I'm about ready to record another record. I've got a whole solo piano record pretty much ready to go.
Nice.
Now, before we came to France, we were waiting for our house to close, and it took quite a while for there's quite a bit of what I'd call French red tape to try to, actually buy a house, and it's a major deal just to get a bank account and a credit card, and to buy a car is, it's like, you have to be interviewed by the CIA practically. They're very, very tight with all of their, all the particulars. So it took us quite a while to get all of our own kind of personal infrastructure together. But in the summertime, we ended up spending almost a whole month or so, actually longer than that, in Norway with Kristin's family. And the year before, too, we had spent quite a bit of time there. And I ended up writing, actually there's one piece of music on the new record, actually the opening track on the new Silhouettes of Love record that I wrote in Norway. I ended up writing practically a whole record's worth of material over the, I think, 6 or 7 weeks that we were in Norway. So, there wasn't we didn't do a whole lot while we were there. And I sat and played Kristin's grandfather's piano, which was really nice, an old spinet, and recorded a lot of little, snippets and ideas. And I've been working on those. And so I have a new record almost ready to record called Norwegian Rain.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And you got a time frame for that kind of thing?
Well, I'm hoping to get into it kind of shortly into the new year. So we'll see. I haven't been able to really set up all my recording gear yet, but I've got a brand new concert grand Akwai Shiguru piano. It's a beautiful instrument. So I'm going to attempt to set up the mics and do what I've done over the last few years and make a nice record here.
Nice. All right. So let's get back to the record you've got out now.
Sure.
And what's interesting in the liner notes, it talks about how you started out as a singer-songwriter, and then you kind of took this big left turn, and for the last 30 years you've done instrumental stuff. But it's interesting, you mainly just composed without words. How does that just get turned back on after 30 years kind of thing?
Well, if my material is very heavy on melody, and I always had this kind of philosophy that my left hand was the band. It's the rhythm section. It keeps things moving. It's the bass. It's the drums. It's the chording. And my right hand was the singer. I always kind of thought of it in those terms. And I always worked very hard on my own songs, back when I was doing mostly instrumental stuff, to have a real melodic hook and to have the same kind of structure that, say, a Beatles song would have. You've got a nice intro, a couple verses, a bridge, choruses, and so, and like you said, I did probably from my late teens into my almost into my late 20s, I was a singer-songwriter, And so, writing melody and writing words and creating songs with lyrics was not that uncommon. And when I met Kristin, her voice just, I don't know, it was just like a destined kind of thing, it seemed like to me. So the music just started to flow.
Please don't tell me words I can't believe. Keep me lost in our illusion.
And she's a great composer and has an amazing ear. So the two of us really, oftentimes one of us had come up with an idea, and then we would work off of each other. So it all came together fairly easily.
Nice. Now, I noticed that this record was recorded kind of all over the place, like on the either end of the United States and a little bit in Seattle. I mean, that's kind of crazy. You record some of it in California, some of it in New York kind of thing, some of it in Seattle. Kind of why all the different venues kind of thing.
Well, California, I went down there for an award ceremony, and I had worked, well, it's been maybe 10 years now, with a guy named Greg Karukas, he's one of the top kind of artists in the smooth jazz category, contemporary jazz.
Right.
Great producer. And so Kristin really liked his stuff, and we had a couple songs, and she kept saying, we should do something with Karukas. He's really great. And so while we were down in California, we extended our stay for a few days and cut some tracks with Greg. And then my family and my brother, who I've worked with a lot on my recordings, all live in Seattle. So that's why we went to Seattle, and we figured out certain songs, and with the certain musicians that we knew that would work for each location. And then New York was an obvious choice for us because Kristin's first album, Notes from a Journey, was produced by Alex Salzman, who's a really well-known musician engineer in New York. And in fact, a number of the songs on the new record were songs that we had taken off of her original album. We just did our own variations on them. So anyway, Alex was great. So, it all kind of made sense. It was, we probably spent too much money, but we had a good time.
That's all right. And you have a great document to, you have a great record as a document of it. Now, why don't you the violin is just fantastic.
Oh yeah, Charlie Bisharoff. He's played with everyone. He's played with all of the well-known kind of new age guys like John Tesh and Yanni, but he's been hired, pretty much by everybody. The guy is just brilliant. You just go in the studio and you just play the song, and I gave him a chord chart. There wasn't any notation on it, just the structure. And he listens to the vocal, listens to the piano, and he just finds his way. And he's a virtuoso. He's one of the best musicians I've ever worked with, and he's brilliant.
And one of the things that I've noticed on the record is that some of the songs really sound more like a band situation. And I want to reference like Falling, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You've got violin, you got acoustic guitar, you've got Kristin's voice, and you're not even really like the featured artist on that particular track. It sounds like more of a cohesive band sound on that.
Yeah, we were trying to go for kind of an ensemble, especially on some of those things, and we did on that track definitely featured the guitar and featured the violin. So when I wrote the song, I came in and I played my part, and the part was so simple. It was really more of a structure to provide kind of a bed, for, and it made it really easy, in other words, for the other musicians to kind of put their own kind of magic on the whole thing.
Yeah, that's really one of the standouts. Now, Found by Love's Return.
Love's return, I feel it in the air we breathe. Everything we waited for, we only have to walk beyond
Now, on your Movements of the Heart record, you have a song called Love's Return, but it's an instrumental.
Right.
So same song, just with words?
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's a different key. We changed the title because we didn't want to confuse any of the, when you get into the way songs are licensed and performed and the performance royalties, we wanted to make sure that there was a clear definition between the two songs. But that, on the Movements of the Heart record, that was the first song inspired by my feelings for Kristin. And shortly after I wrote the song, I actually wrote, I wrote a lyric, and she loved it, and we worked on it. It took us a few years to come around to actually getting it recorded as the version that's on the new record. And we had to change the key. We changed the song a little bit, but really it's the same song.
Now, that kind of begs the question of, is there other songs from your past instrumentally that you find yourself playing and suddenly lyrics are falling into place?
Not really. I mean, I guess you would think there would be. For me, I'm always kind of just moving ahead,
Okay. All right.
But I have had a number of people over the years have written lyrics and sent me some of their renditions. Some of them really, really good, and some of them they're just people that are kind of, more of kind of a hobby, just taking a song and writing a lyric. But yeah, to tell you the truth, I kind of just keep moving
keep moving forward, right? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but you did say that you pulled some songs off of Kristin's album.
Yes.
How many of those songs are on the new record?
Let's see. I think I want to say 3.
Okay.
And the most interesting one, I think she had a song called Amor Eterno, and it's an Italian. It's a love song, and it's Italian, and it has kind of a I don't know if you smooth jazz. It kind of has kind of that chill vibe to it a little bit, that electronica, a little bit of a sequence kind of sound. But she really just she didn't want to sing on it. She wanted me to play the song on the piano. So that's kind of one of my favorite tracks. It's kind of cool. It's got kind of an Italian groove to it. Like you're driving around in Italy with the top down, and that song would come on the radio. So.
Yeah, and it's got a little bit of digital percussion kind of thing on it too.
Yeah, it does, definitely. And that is that actually we took the same track off her record that Alex Salzman produced, and we worked with Alex in the studio. So we kept basically the same tracks. He added a little bit of different guitar, and I took over the vocal part and did it all on piano. And then he mixed it a little differently than he did on Kristin's record. But yeah, basically it was the same. The same song, only kind of, that's what we call it, a redux, a redo. So
right, nice. Now
yeah.
Another guy that guests on the record, Keith Lowe. You've got upright bass, and he's really featured on "Lady on the Shore." It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm your lady on the shore. Yes, the one you waited for.
Keith was also, when I was back in my Beatle phase on the Liverpool Reimagining the Beatles and Here Comes the Sun, Keith was a bass player on those records. And Keith is great. I mean, he's just one of these guys. He's played with everybody. He's played with Bill Frisell. He was Fiona Apple's bass player for quite a few years. And he plays a lot of electric bass, but I always like to get Keith in the studio on the upright bass. He really, really shines. And he's another one of my friends from Seattle. So when we went to Seattle, it was primarily Keith and I and Kristin and my brother in the studio. And then later on, we overdubbed some of the violin and things like that. But that's nice. People don't usually pick up on the bass, so it's nice to hear you say.
Right. No, it was just something that I heard on that one particular track. Like, wow, that sounds fantastic. So, Silhouettes of Love, the title track, that's kind of a different tune from you in a way, because it's got a real soulful quality, I think.
The beauty that I see
Yeah, nice. Well, it's funny. 2 years ago, Christine and I came. We were actually house hunting. When we spent a couple of years actually kind of going around and trying to, imagine where we might want to live. And our first stop was Nice because she had lived there. And the lyric was actually written like at 4 a.m. I woke up and had this kind of, just this early morning kind of inspiration. So the lyric was written, and I came home and wrote the music, and it was more I guess the feel of it was more almost kind of in one of my more standard kind of David Lanz modes. And Christine kept bugging me. She just goes, "Can't you play it? No, that's not right. Why don't you play it a little more jazz, with a little more soul, a little,
Right.
So she kind of egged me on. And at first I kind of went, well, no, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And then I went, oh, I get it.
Right.
So she's been really good for me. She's really, really has a great influence on it's nice to have it's like I'm Paul McCartney and I finally found John Lennon, It's
right.
great.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. So, all right, I want to ask you about one more, Waiting for the Sun.
Waiting for the sun, walking through the rain. You leave the past behind you now. There's only love to gain.
That sounds like one of those that could be like a showstopper live. Got a big grandiose kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
Anything you can tell me about that?
Well, that was a true collaboration. I had, I wrote a whole bunch of lyrics and poems right in the beginning of our relationship. I kind of just went crazy and just writing. And Waiting for the Sun was basically written as a lyric. And Christine got a hold of it, and we came up with one song, and it wasn't working, but she really came up with the whole melody. So all I had to do was just take her melodic idea and put the right chords behind it. So Christine really, she grew up with, one of her role models was Julie Andrews.
Oh wow, okay.
Julie Andrews and Karen Carpenter were kind of her two. Plus, she was trained more in kind of an operatic background. So, she could have easily, if she really wanted to, and she doesn't, but she probably could go to Broadway because she really has that kind of range and sensibility about her music.
Nice. Now, okay, so the two of you are in France, and you've got this record out. That kind of gets in the way of sort of touring then, right? I mean, do you have plans to, the two of you, promote this record at all in the States, or kind of, wait till you thaw out? I mean, the last thing you probably want to do is, tour the Northeast in January or something like that, right?
We really haven't started any, the initial will be radio promotion. So we've signed on a nice radio promoter. In fact, today we just mailed out all the European radio contacts. And he's in the States, so he'll be doing all the radio, terrestrial radio and internet radio stations. So we're kind of just starting slow with that. We've been promoting a lot on Facebook and doing all the stuff that really isn't that expensive. It's just time consuming, And I've already done a pretty fair job of promoting it just to my fan base. So, we've sold a fair number of records already, but the touring thing is we're just kind of wait and see, because I have an agent in America, and she's trying to line up some shows either in the spring, and she already has some things coming up for the winter, and we have hopes of try to branch out a little bit here and get ourselves in a few situations here in Europe, but really, we've kind of become, we're really kind of, we're striking the artist pose here, and we're hoping not to push too hard on the touring side of things right now, and just try to, get ourselves really settled in here before we pull up stakes and try to, move around the country a bunch anymore.
Right. Yeah, you got to get settled. You got to get settled in your new surroundings, right? So
definitely.
And what's interesting is this album has a lot of different flavors. You know, it's not like a typical, say, new age or whatever kind of, you know, record. So, I mean, there's several tracks on here that could be marketed in a smooth jazz vein too. You know, I mean, it seems like this album could bring a lot of possibilities. So,
yeah, that's what we thought. And in fact, it's, you know, some people think it has kind of this, what they call kind of classical crossover appeal, some of the more orchestral things. And then we got the smooth jazz element. So, in a little bit, you know, we were trying to, both Kristin and I were trying to veer away a little bit from being thrown, you know, back into the strictly new age thing, because it does have more of a, you know, contemporary pop kind of feeling to it. So,
right.
Yeah, we hope that we have a chance to, you know, open up a different kind of market for ourselves.
Good. Fantastic. All right. So if people want to find out more about the Silhouettes of Love and the new record that you're soon to be working on, davidlanz.com, Lanz, and right?
That works really great. And, you know, you can always find us on Facebook, both, you know, David Lanz and Kristin, spelled with a K. Looks like Kristin, but it's Kristin Amarie. And, yeah, we're both on Facebook, easily found, and the best way really for folks to really find anything out is to go to my website, and they can just sign up for my newsletter. It takes about 15 seconds.
Nice.
And then they'll get information about, you know, any kind of touring and any kind of new releases, and you know, we give free things away occasionally, so it's might be worth their while to check that out.
No, absolutely. All right. Well, good luck on the new project.
Thank you, Tony.
The new record from David Lanz and Kristin Amarie is called Silhouettes of Love, and we hope to talk to you on the next project then, all right?
Sounds good, Tony. It's always great. Have a good one, man.
It's David Lanz there, and I tell you, it is just amazing that I can be here in Dayton, Ohio, and he's in France, and we're just having this conversation. You know, it's technology is something, isn't it? Well, you've just heard our 260th episode, and if you like what you heard, we got a whole lot more of them at our website, iconfetch.com. Also got some album reviews there as well if you're looking for something new to listen to or something old that you may have missed the first time around. We have that as well. Our shows are also available for free download at the iTunes Store, and we're even on the Stitcher app that some of the new cars have. So when you're stuck in traffic, you can pull up one of our episodes and make your commute go by a little better. You can always reach me at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, I'm Tony Peters. Have yourself a good one.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio, 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.